Out of the 7.1 billion people in the world, 84% of the population consider themselves as followers of one of the many different religions offered in the world. Religion has offered support for many and unified nations, but it has also been a huge source of conflict. Although religion has provided comfort to many in times of oppression, people in power have a history of using religion to suppress others through their strict laws and practices.
Over the course of history, many oppressed groups have used religion to help them overcome their masters and give them hope.
But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
African Americans relied on Christianity to give them hope and assurance that a better day would come for them during the Civil Rights era. Powerful leaders like Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson referenced God and Jesus multiple times throughout their speeches to urge their audience to join the movement and assure them that God was with them. They often compared the struggle they had to the struggle that Jesus went through to remind them that He knows their pain. A popular hymn titled "We Shall Overcome" was sung in many churches during this time because it gives blacks reassurance and peace of mind. However, there have been many times when religion has caused oppression.
Spanish conquistadors used evangelism to justify their cruel massacre of Native Americans. When the conquistadors arrived in the Americas, they felt an obligation to convert the Native Americans to Christianity. In 1513, Spain's King Ferdinand requested that the natives convert to Christianity or, quote, "with the help of God, we shall use force against you," end quote. Bartolomé de las Casas, a Dominican monk and historian, recorded many gruesome examples of conquistadors practicing religious intolerance toward the natives, such as cutting them to pieces as if dealing with sheep in the slaughterhouse. Despite the fact that in both Micah 9 verse 3-6 and Luke 9 verse 52-56 from the Bible, a book the conquistadors preached to the natives, Micah and Jesus preach religious tolerance, but the conquistadors refused to allow natives to practice their own religions.
The Indies were discovered in the year 1492. 49 years have passed since the first settlers penetrated the land, the first being the large and most happy isle called Hispaniola, perhaps the most densely populated place in the world. There must be close to 200 leagues of land on this island, and all the land so far discovered is a beehive of people. It is as though God had crowded into these lands the great majority of mankind. And all of the infinite universe of humanity, these people are the most guileless, the most devoid of wickedness and duplicity, the most obedient and faithful to their native masters and to the Spanish Christians whom they serve. And because they are so weak and complacent, they are less able to endure heavy labor and soon die of no matter what malady. Yet into this sheepfold, into this land of meek outcasts, there came some Spaniards who immediately behaved like ravening wild beasts, wolves, tigers, or lions that had been starved for many days, killing, terrorizing, afflicting, torturing, and destroying the native peoples, doing all this with the strangest and most varied new methods of cruelty, never seen or heard of before, and to such a degree that this island of Hispaniola, once so populous, having a population that I estimated to be more than 3 million, has now a population of barely 200 persons. Their reason for killing and destroying such an infinite number of souls is that the Christians have an ultimate aim, which is to acquire gold and to swell themselves with riches in a very brief time and thus rise to a high estate disproportionate to their merits. It should be kept in mind that their insatiable greed and ambition, the greatest ever seen in the world, is the cause of their villainies. And also those lands are so rich and felicitous, the native people so meek and patient, so easy to subject, that our Spaniards have no more consideration for them than beasts. No, for thanks be to God, they have treated beasts with some respect, I should say instead like excrement on the public squares.
In addition, the Puritans were another group of people that used religion to oppress others. The Puritans oppressed those around them through their strict religious laws. Rather than practicing forgiveness towards sinners, Puritans harshly punished those who were deemed sinners through embarrassing and painful methods, such as locking them in wooden stocks to throw rotten eggs at them and public whippings. According to the Salem Witch Trials by Stuart A. Callan, Puritans also practiced religious intolerance towards non-Puritans. They denied non-Puritans the right to practice their religions by expecting them to worship at Puritan meeting houses. Puritans were especially intolerant of Quakers to the point where they whipped, tortured, and occasionally hanged them due to their beliefs. Although they themselves originally fled from England to escape from religious persecution, the Puritans chose to oppress those with religious beliefs that were contrary to their own.
Mary Tudor was the Queen of England from 1553 to 1558. She forced people into Catholicism and executed those who were Protestant. She earned the name Bloody Mary for persecuting over 300 Protestants. Many became Catholic in order to avoid being killed. She did not give people freedom of religion, instead she dictated what they had to believe.
Mary Tudor was the most hated queen in British history. During her 5-year reign, she threw all England into chaos. Mary beheaded traitors, murdered heretics, and had pregnant women burnt to death in the name of her religious fanaticism. The entire nation lived in fear of her.
Make no mistake about it, the burning of somebody at the stake is a very nasty business. It takes a long time to die. The smell of human burning fat would have been overpowering.
There were nearly 300 burnt in about 3.5 years in Mary's reign, which was actually more than the Spanish Inquisition and the French Chambre Ardente put together in the same period.
Thousands fled into hiding, and the streets of English cities were polluted with the putrid smell of burning flesh. She created such terror that she's known as Bloody Mary.
Blue laws were a series of laws that prohibited Sabbath breaking, breaches in family discipline, drunkenness, and excess in dress. The courts had the power to make any laws they wanted, and they often used this power to make oppressive laws. Many of the laws that were created had cruel punishments that did not fit the crime. There was a law in Massachusetts Bay Colony prohibiting public display of affection on Sundays. In 1656, Captain Campbell went home to his wife after 3 long years away from her and kissed her on his front doorstep. Since it was Sunday, his actions were deemed, quote, lewd and unseemly behavior, close quote, and he had to spend 2 hours locked in public stocks.
You can't do this on Sundays in some parts of the country.
I think the law is an arcane law. This is a free country, and people should be able to do what they choose to on which days.
They'll still go to church, because I know my church people go to church.
They're called blue laws, and they limit shopping on items from booze to Buicks. More than a dozen states have laws restricting alcohol sales on Sundays, with 3, including Georgia, banning liquor store sales altogether. In several states and counties, you can't buy a car on Sundays. Dealerships must be closed. In most counties in South Carolina, retail outlets can't open before 1:30 on a Sunday unless they're selling necessary items like food or fuel. It's based on a centuries-old Christian concept brought over to this country in colonial times.
Early, particularly statewide blue laws, actually referenced the fact that, you were not to profane the Lord on the Lord's Day, and that you went to church on Sundays. There would be no other work permitted on Sunday.
In the Puritan faith at this time, dancing was a major transgression. Paris is infuriated when he finds out that Abigail and Betty were dancing in the forest because his reputation is at risk. Considering how her father would react based on the strict and at times oppressive laws of the Puritan faith, Betty fakes being sick. Paris draws the conclusion that she is involved with spirits. It is because of Betty attempting to avoid the consequences of dancing in the forest that talk of witchcraft spreads and mass hysteria amplifies.
So, Reverend Paris, how do you feel about what happened in the forest last night?
Well, to be honest, sir, I'm not pleased. I'm not pleased at all, because I walked in on my niece and my daughter dancing, out of all the things they could be doing. It's a sin to dance, and I see that in the forest. It's absolutely crazy. I'm going insane.
It is evident that religion has the ability to comfort people, but it can also be oppressive. In the 16th century, Spanish conquistadors used threats and violence to force the native peoples into Catholicism.
Also, in the Puritan faith, strict laws prohibited individual freedom and were extremely overbearing. On the other hand, in Haiti, religious laws were used to give hope to the enslaved people. Also, during the Civil Rights era, faith became a vital driving force, creating a sense of community and encouraging masses. In England, Mary Tudor abused her power as queen to oppress and murder hundreds who did not share her religious views.
Lastly, in the Crucible, the strict laws of the Puritan faith proved to be overbearing when Betty fakes being sick just to avoid the consequences of her sin. The action Betty takes out of fear caused Paris to believe she is involved with spirits and encourages mass hysteria in the town. Even today, religion has proven to comfort people, but it has also oppressed.